Welcome, Mohawk Nation. Welcome to chemistry. We're going to do balancing chemical equations, practice sheet number 2, problem number 6. This is a word one, so we have to write out the skeletal equation. Then we have to go ahead and balance that skeletal equation. So we're going to start off by looking at sodium reacts with magnesium chloride, yielding sodium chloride and magnesium. All of the compounds that we have here are either elements or, in this case, type 1 nomenclature. So we should be able to go ahead and do this relatively easy. So we're going to start off with our sodium. That is just an element. So we're going to go in and we just say we start off with sodium. That's going to react, which means it's reacting with something that we plus magnesium chloride. Now magnesium chloride, this is a type 1, so we have to go ahead and look at our monoatomic sheet. We see magnesium is right here, so that's +2. Okay. And then our next element was chloride, so we go back to that. We find chlorine. Chlorine's over here, and it's a -1. So I have a +2 and a -1. So magnesium's a +2, -1. They don't cancel each other out, so we flip-flop them. So this becomes a 1, and this becomes a 2. So we're going to put Mg1, but we don't put the subscripts down. And then we'll put Cl for chlorine with a subscript of 2. Now that's going to yield. Our yield is our arrow. So we're going to put our arrow in there, and that's going to yield sodium chloride. Now, if I go back to our monoatomic sheet in our packet, we see that sodium is a +1. Chlorine is a -1, so they cancel each other out. So we're going to go back to this, and we're going to say that we only need one of each one of those. So we need Na, and then Cl, and then magnesium, Mg. Okay, and we're going to put this, going to be plus to that. Now remember, once we have these formulas right here cannot change. We don't change any subscripts because these are the chemical formulas for those compounds. Now, the next thing we have to look is see, is Na, because it's by itself, or Mg, magnesium, that it's by itself. And we need to make sure to see if they are diatomic. So how do we see if they're diatomic? Well, when we see if they're diatomic, we go to the periodic table, and we say here are our 7. So nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine, and hydrogen. So if I go back to our problem over here, sodium or magnesium, neither one are diatomic of where they're located. We have sodium here and magnesium here. Okay, they're not our diatomic ones. So let's go back to our problem. We don't have to put a subscript for those because they're not diatomic. So now all we have to do is go ahead and put in what we have. So we have element sodium. We don't have any polyatomic ions, so we don't have to worry about that. Then we're going to put in magnesium, and then we're going to put in chlorine. So I have our elements right there, and we're going to put in what we have, how many on each side of the arrow. On this side of the arrow, I have 1 sodium. On this side, I have 1 sodium. On this side, I have 1 magnesium, and on this side, I have 1 magnesium. On this side, I have 2 chlorine, but on this side, I only have 1. So everything's already balanced except for the chlorine. So how do I change that? I got to change the coefficients. Again, we're not changing the subscripts. So I'm going to come up here and put a 2 right here, which tells me now I have 2 of the sodium chlorides. So I'm going to have 2 chlorines. So I have 2 chlorines, so that's good, but it changed my sodium. So now I have 2 sodiums. So I got to chase that to this side, and I got to change my sodium on this side. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a 2 there. And that now tells me that I have 2 sodiums on this side. So if I look at it, I can see that I have 2 sodiums on each side, 1 magnesium on each side, and 2 chlorines on each side. I can double check by looking up here. 2 sodiums, 2 sodiums. 1 magnesium, 1 magnesium. 2 chlorine. There's my chlorine. I have it twice because of the coefficient, and so we're good. So all I have to do is put in my molar ratio, and my molar ratio is going to be 2 to 1 to 2 to 1. So 2 to 1 to 2 to 1. So that's the same numbers as I have right there for coefficients. So if you haven't figured it out by now, our molar ratio is our coefficients. Because again, that's the only thing that can change. I highlight it and look at it and say, okay, can I reduce it? Since I have ones in there, I cannot reduce, and we'll make it bold, and we'll go ahead and highlight it with our green. And there's our answer to problem number 6 of worksheet or practice number 2 sheet. Okay. I know that you're working hard at this, so keep up the good work. And as always, go Mohawks.